Voters across 21 European Union countries have been lining up at polling stations on the final day of voting in parliamentary elections. About 370 million Europeans are eligible to cast their ballots to elect 720 new members of the European Parliament. It's all happening amid concerns that a likely shift to the political right will undermine the ability of the world's biggest trading bloc to take decisions as war rages in Ukraine and anti-migrant sentiment mounts. Apart from immigration, the biggest challenges include a hostile Russia, increased industrial rivalry with China and the United States, and climate change. The election began on Thursday in the Netherlands and in other countries on Friday and Saturday, but the bulk of EU votes have been cast on Sunday. Now, once the four-day poll is over and the new parliament is formed, there's still one important vote left to cast: who will lead the European Commission. Each political party nominates a candidate to head the Commission. The candidate from the political party with the most seats in Parliament is the nominee. Members of Parliament then vote on whether or not to endorse them. The clear frontrunner is the incumbent Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She's the candidate for the centre-right European People's Party and is vying for a second five-year term. Now, Walter Bayer of Austria is the choice for the European Left Party. He was the president of Austria's Communist Party between 1994 and 2006. Sandro Gozzi fronts the liberal centrist Renew Europe Party. The Italian is an outspoken pro-Europe politician who has worked for the European Commission in the past, chiefly during negotiations to adopt the common euro currency. The European Greens has named Terry Reintke from Germany as its candidate. She has served as a member of the European Parliament since 2014. And Nicolas Schmidt will represent the Party of European Socialists. From Luxembourg, the career politician has served as the European Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights since 2019. Let's get more on this now with Enda Brady, who joins us for a special segment on our coverage of the European Union elections. Hi, Enda.
Well, good evening, Oscar, from Brussels on what promises to be a momentous night for European politics. All 27 EU member states voting over the last 4 days, from Finland in the north to Ireland in the west, Bulgaria in the east, all the way down south to Cyprus and Malta. A total of 373 million people eligible to vote in these elections. Why are they so important? Ultimately, the results in the next few hours will decide the makeup of the next European Parliament in Strasbourg. 720 seats up for grabs, and those politicians will decide Europe's policies for the next 5 years. It is a very, very significant moment indeed. Let's bring in Yusuf Erim, who is our political editor. Yusuf, a lot of the media discussion in the last few days has been about the right and the far right growing in popularity. What are the early exit polls telling us?
Well, when we're looking at the exit polls out of the Netherlands, which was the first country to vote on June 6th, it looks like the Freedom Party, which is led by Geert Wilders, fared off pretty well. Opinion polls throughout Europe show far-right parties going to be faring very well. The Brothers of Italy party, led by Giorgia Meloni in Italy, projected to do well. The National Rally, led by Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella, going to do very well. In Austria and Belgium, far-right parties are eyeing victories as well. And then there's a lot of right-wing, hard-right, far-right parties that are going to come in second and third place. You have the Vox in Spain, which has been rising in popularity, AUR in Romania, PIS is rebounding in Poland as well. So we could quite possibly Monday morning see a very different political composition for the European Parliament.
Talk to me about Giorgia Meloni. She's already put her stamp on Italian politics, but there's a very real prospect the next week or two she could be a major power broker across Europe.
She can definitely be a major power broker. I mean, they're projected to get probably about 25 members of parliament. I believe that's the number that they're expecting. They're going to be part of the European Conservative and Reformist political group here at the European Parliament and also in Strasbourg. So that political group is going to be strengthened. She's going to have, and her party is going to have, a major presence over there. So really driving their policy, having a big say in that group's policy. And when you look at Giorgia Meloni, I'd like to take her in a parenthesis and put her aside from the other far-right parties, because she has tried to be proactive and work with Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president. She has tried to solve her country's migration problem as well, talking and discussing with African countries, recently meeting with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as well. So she has tried to have some type of dialogue to solve the problem in Africa at its roots, rather than just complaining at Brussels and Strasbourg. And even though her party is far right, when you look at these new parties that could be coming to European Parliament, she's actually now coming a little more towards center, because you have a new gauge of measure of what far right is.
And tell me, this really matters tonight, because for the last 5 years, the Liberals have and the centre ground have held sway in the European Parliament in Strasbourg, but all could change, and that would mean changes of policy in terms of Russia, Ukraine, green policies, climate, absolutely everything is up for grabs.
Definitely. I mean, if we see the political composition change from a generally traditionally centrist with a coalition with center-left parties towards a more right-leaning with far-right parties having a important influence and impact on policy, we're going to see a new direction for Brussels and Strasbourg going forward. We can see climate policies being rolled back. We could see an approach that favors peace more and dialogue more with Russia versus just militarily supporting Ukraine. Definitely a tougher stance on migration. That's a given. More support towards the farmers who have been protesting throughout the EU. The right wing, and especially the far right, has been supporting the farmers a lot, because you see a lot of these far right politicians come from rural areas as well. So they've had their ear to the farmers, have been listening to them. We'll probably see more regulation. When I mean more regulation limiting outside manufacturing competition and favoring domestic competition. So maybe trade with China might be a little more limited, more regulations there. So these are all possibilities with a big shift right in. Of course, the U.S., there's going to be elections in November. So that will be very important on how the political composition engages with the future U.S. administration as well.
Well, of the 720 seats up for grabs tonight, 81 of those will go to French politicians. Let's go live now to the French capital, Paris, where Peter Allen is there for us. And Peter, I want to ask you about Marine Le Pen and the poster boy of the far right in French politics, Jordan Bardella. How likely are they to see a big surge in support, do you think?
Well, I can give you some instant, very dramatic news, Ender. Jordan Bardella has just been on his feet announcing a Rassemblement National landslide. They've got 32% of the vote, according to very accurate exit polls, which are widely accepted by all parties as being almost identical to the final results, give or take 1 or 2 points. But they're absolutely certain they've got 32% of the vote. Hugely significantly, that's more than double what President Emmanuel Macron's Renaissance Alliance has got. They're on 15.4% of the vote. Their lead candidate is Valérie Hayer. And then you've got the Socialists on 13.9% of the vote. Now, the Rassemblement National, they always do well at European elections. A lot of people say it's because it's a chance for voters to let off steam, to show a bit of anti-establishment anger, a bit of populist anger at elections that don't matter massively, in the sense that they don't really affect domestic affairs too much. But this result is so massive, 32%, that's double again what they got in the last European elections in 2019. Very, very significant. Who's the person who's probably going to be celebrating most tonight, Ender? As you suggest, Marine Le Pen is going to be the person who is probably going to be the happiest, because she is not standing as an MEP, but she wants to become president of France in 2027. She's tried 3 times already, always failed, but always come runner-up, behind Emmanuel Macron by a few points. She will be buoyed by this huge vote for the Rassemblement National tonight and feel that it will push her potentially towards the Elysee in 2027. Also hugely significant, I can tell you that Emmanuel Macron has just announced that he's going to make an address in a few minutes. Now, I imagine that might be a bit of an emergency address. One of his great pledges when he came to power in 2017 was that he was going to keep the far right out of power with their alleged racism, their alleged anti-Semitism, their alleged Islamophobia. He said he was going to stop them, and here we are, them getting their biggest election result in European elections ever, and talking about getting the Elysee. Very dramatic night here in Paris, Enda.
So, Peter, this really is a political bloody nose for Emmanuel Macron.
It's very much a bloody nose. I think that's perfectly put. He will argue that he is going to be president now until 2027. He's still got a lot of governing in him. But remember, he is a lame duck president. He doesn't have a parliamentary majority. So what does he do? He pushes through legislation, a lot of it very controversial, through presidential decree. That has made him a lot of enemies. You may remember last year, terrible rioting all over France, particularly over pension reform. He pushed up the pension age here from 62 to 64 in a way that infuriated millions of French people of every age. They were literally out on the street rioting all over last summer. He pushed through that legislation through presidential decree. One might argue that that kind of, what one would say, some would say, arrogant behavior, ignoring parliament, ignoring democratic system, and just pushing through legislation using the constitution in a way that is really very undemocratic and says a lot about the presidential system here. That has made him hugely unpopular, and who knows, perhaps today people are again letting off steam, showing their hatred of the way the country is being run at the moment. Economically, France is not doing very, very well. There's all kinds of unhappiness, a lot of feeling that it's a hugely unequal country. They call Emmanuel Macron the president of the rich. They say he's mainly interested in super rich billionaires who run the French multinationals, but that's about it. So who knows, perhaps tonight what we've seen is a massive protest vote against Emmanuel Macron. It's certainly a bloody nose. Is it enough to suggest we're looking at a far-right presidency in a few years' time? That will really what we'll all be looking out for in the months and years ahead, Enda.
Peter Allen live for us there in Paris. Thank you. Well, let's go to Madrid, where we can bring in Ana Maria Marquez. Ana Maria, just talk us through what we're likely to see coming out of Spain in the next few hours.
Well, according to the exit polls, the results right now are pretty much in a technical tie between the socialists and the conservatives, but it still will be a victory, a slim victory, for the conservatives. The difference right now is only 2 points between the Popular Party, that will hold 32.4 points of the votes, and the Socialist Party, the party of the Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, that is hanging in there with 32% of the votes casted today. And also we are seeing the surge of the far-right Vox party with 10.4% of the votes, becoming the third force for the Spanish representation in the European Parliament. The campaign has been very bitter, and really the future of Europe was not precisely in the center of all the speeches of the political leaders. Truth to be told, all the parties insisted in how crucial this final composition of the European Parliament will be for the stability of the European Union. But many of the 38 million citizens which were able to cast their vote in Spain, they did exactly as France has just said. They were showing their anger about what is the situation right now in Spain, a very divided scenario. to either endorse the socialist government or to show their dissatisfaction with a coalition that has not been able to approve not even the national budget or other laws beyond the controversial amnesty to the Catalonian separatist leaders.
Ana Maria, what do you think was the main kind of talking point over the last few weeks across Spain in terms of deciding where people would cast their ballots? Was it cost of living and economic issues?
Well, as you said, it was more focused on national issues more than European politics. At a very early stage, Prime Minister Sanchez was determined to focus his campaign on foreign policy, leveraging the momentum gained after the recognition of the Palestinian state. But recent amnesty law approval, and especially the ongoing investigation into Begoña Gómez, his wife, for business corruption and influence peddling, brought the debate back to domestic battles. In particular, this last week, after a Madrid court ordered Gómez to testify next July the 5th, and the European Public Prosecutor Office requested to collect further evidence linked to a similar investigation on her. So for the government coalition parties, this election is about testing the waters in Spain, using this as a tool to validate contentious decisions and to assess the support of Pedro Sanchez's leadership in potential national elections. And conservatives and liberals have seen this European election as an opportunity to show the weakness of the current government and to elevate Sanchez's wife investigation and the future of the amnesty to the European instances.
Ana Maria Marquez live for us there in Madrid. Thank you.